We will call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. I'm not going to feed into the Star Wars nonsense, so we will just get going with this meeting here. Additions to the agenda, I have none. Any members of the board have anything to add? Sandy, I see you. No. Michael, no. Chair's remarks. I don't have much. I would just like to make mention that the Everyone Eats program will be ending May 27th. So anybody that signed up for that, all of that will be taken care of through there, and would like to say thank you to Shelley Harvey and the volunteers that have participated in that. That was a great help during this. So thank you for that. Green Up Day was this Saturday. Hannah Rosinski organized that again this year and had quite the turnout. So thank you, Hannah, and all the volunteers for that. And I was just trying to scroll through. I know that we had a resident in town that had a run-in with our fire department recently and posted some very nice comments on Facebook. I was unable to find them, but was able to mention how professional they were and how just enjoyable the interaction was, given that it was an interaction with a fire department for an emergency. So I'd like to highlight the fact that we did get some positive feedback about the Vernon Fire Department. So I think that that needs to be mentioned. Other than that, I have no further comments. Open public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Seeing none, I will open it up to Mr. Emery for a health, I'm sorry. Yes, Wendy.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but MJ may be here to discuss the historians and the commemoration. So okay. This would be the appropriate time to speak about that, MJ, since it's not on the agenda.
Okay, I am here. Hi, everybody. My name is MJ Woodburn. I live on Pond Road with my husband, Vince Johnson, and I'm a member of the Historians. And due to COVID, we didn't have a Memorial Day service last year and thought it unwise to try to squeeze into the chapel this year. So we have obtained, I believe, permission to use the War Memorial. I'm not sure what drive it's on or road, and have started contacting people to participate. So I'm just here to answer questions if anyone has any about that event. We're going to honor not just the war heroes, but last year's war heroes, first responders, and other people who were frontline.
Great. Any questions for MJ? Seeing none, MJ, thank you for organizing that. We did approve that last week. Please make sure that we adhere to all of the COVID guidelines, which I'm sure Mr. Emery will remind us of what those are shortly here. Okay. But other than that, thank you very much for pulling this together, and we're glad that we're able to get back to some sense of normal with these types.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any further public comments? Seeing none, Mr. Emery, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome everyone. Health Officer Mark Snow is unavailable, so I'm going to fly solo tonight. So with that, today and numbers and the last 2 weeks numbers have, believe it or not, got better. There's only one day in the last 2 weeks that Vermont has 100 or over active cases that day. But we're down in the 70s. Yesterday was 31. So in a 7-day average, we are 1.1 people. So yesterday was 31, 15 people in the hospital, 4 in an ICU. The good news is 62% of the population in Vermont, 16 and above, has had at least one of the vaccinations. 43% have completed either the 2 or the Johnson & Johnson single shot. So all of that is good news. Today, the governor had a conference and things changed significantly today. And I think we are in what they call phase 2, starting today. Outdoors have lightened up not only from the CDC, but Vermont has lightened up now. So if you are on the outside and you are maintaining 6 foot of distance, masks are not required anymore. However, if you are not maintaining the 6 foot distance, and it's, other than your immediate family or mixed families, then the masks have to come back out. We're not away from them yet. It's going to be that transition. Inside, the masks are not let up if you're at a meeting or whatever, and the 6 foot distance and hand washing. So that's really good news. He lightened up on some of the baseball and the outside sports. For instance, baseball players, softball players, if they're in the field, they don't have to wear a mask. But once they come into the dugout, then again, unable to keep that 6 foot distance, masks are required. So I'm anticipating the next 2 weeks, we're going to see significant changes again. However, a lot of it's based on the vaccination. And unfortunately, however, Vermont's okay, but there's some resistance out there to the groups that are, or the people that are left of getting the vaccine. And it's for a multitude of reasons that they're resisting it. So we won't discuss all the reasons, but needless to say, everyone in the science world have clearly said and stated over and over that it's a safe vaccine, even though there have been some glitches, and that comes with any vaccine. So the real thing that we need to, try to encourage people and get them to take the vaccine. School in Vernon is on track. They're doing very well. They have no unmet needs. The best thing that I can tell you is go to Vermont, the website, which is what? Vermont, I should know it by now. I think I just got it saved, so that's a bad thing. Yeah, vermont.gov/COVID-19. That's it. And you can do everything. You can find out what's going on. You can sign up for vaccines. The pharmacies are still taking calls. Vermont, as of today, did not get an increase from the feds on the amount of vaccine that they're getting. However, they're anticipating that in a very short order that may change, where Vermont and other states will be getting additional amount of vaccine. And I'm not sure where we are with everything else. I think that's up to date. We're doing well. I'm happy. And I think Vernon Town's meeting is on, the plan is still, I think, and we should leave it right there, to leave it the 6 foot distancing, bring your chair and a mask. And I'm sure Tim's going to talk about that a little later. Maybe in 19 days, because that's how far away we are, things might change quicker than that. But that's all I have right now, and I'm open for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Did the state of emergency, was that extended again?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was going to mention that. It has been. And I guess I'm kind of at the, we've talked about from a long time ago, as long as the state has declared a state of emergency, we would follow that guideline. However, I guess I'm still in that position, but if you people, the board wanted to rescind it, I wouldn't argue with it at this point.
I don't see any benefit from rescinding it unless anybody on the board objects. I would say we just leave it as is and see what the governor says next month.
And I would agree. It would be easier if in fact things do fall apart to have that in place rather than try to reinstitute it where we can just fall back and without doing all that. So I would agree and leaving it there until, again, I'll give you another report in 2 weeks.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for Mr. Emery? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we are joined by Dave Walker, our Highway Department Road Foreman Commissioner, whatever your fancy title is there. And he's going to give us a update on the Highway Department. And we're also going to discuss your fuel bids at the same time, sir. So I'm going to turn this over to you and you can let us know where you're at, what the summer is looking like and what we can expect to see around town.
You're muted.
If you hover over your icon there, you should be able to unmute.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Everything's been going well down here. We had the plows put away, but we had to pull them back out, then re-clean them. Hopefully the wind stops. Getting sick of cleaning up trees. But roads are all swept. Right now, we're on just about same schedule we are every year at this time. We're not that far off, a little bit, but we'll get there. We'll get everything all done. So this summer, once I know what's going on with the budget after town meeting, then I can go from there.
Okay.
That's what's holding us up there.
All right. Last week our last meeting, we discussed a couple of trees around town. Where are we at on those?
The tree company's going to be coming in. I don't know when. I can call and just find out. I
But
think
that-
it might have been in this last week.
Okay. And did that include the one at the Historians Museum as well?
Nope, but they do know about that one too. So,
Okay.
but it might come in that day. It might not.
Okay. All right. Any questions for David just on the normal operations and upcoming anything? If not, let's roll into the fuel bids. You want to touch on those for us, sir?
Well, actually, we're going to have to remove Bob's fuel because that was for off-road and not for on-road.
Okay.
The only other thing is, do you want to split it or you want one company? Like with the heating oil, you want to let Coda and Coda have it, and because they're higher on the other, go with another company? Or you want to award it to one? Because at first, you're only on the heating, it's only $987.50. And they'll make that up quick with the higher price on the other.
I don't know if I did my math right. Coda and Coda and Sandries are pretty close to equivalent. If the usage rate for the diesel and gas are such, if you use 6,000 gallons of diesel and 1,200 gallons of gas, the savings from Sandries amount to about $900. So Sandries would be, I don't know, probably about $50 more if the usage rates are accurate.
Well, that will go on the year, what happens in the winter for fuel, but it's
Yeah.
real close, just so you know.
Yep.
Then I just came up with $987.50 on the heating oil difference between the two.
Yeah. The savings from Sandry with the rack price, according, if the usage for diesel and gas are accurate, it's about $924 savings.
So,
That's an option, is to go with heating oil with, say, Coda and Coda and the fuel from Sandries.
yep.
All right, well, that's what I think we ought to do. Unless you have a different recommendation, David.
Nope, I was fine with that.
I would accept a motion unless there's further discussion from the board.
Okay, I move that we accept the bid for heating oil for next year, Coda and Coda, and the bids for winter diesel, summer diesel, and unleaded gasoline from AR Sandry.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Michael,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Chris is an aye. All right. So that is all set there. Any further comments, questions, concerns for Mr. Walker before we allow him to exit this exciting meeting?
Thanks for your diligency with the roads this year, David.
What was that, Sandy?
Thank you for your diligency with the roads this year.
Yep, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, sir.
You too.
All right. Next, we need to approve minutes from our regular meeting on 4/20, and there's a few ratifications. One was the town clerk rental of the tent for the town meeting in the amount of $1,550, and the Vernon Historians use of the Veterans Memorial for Memorial Day Ceremonies.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. May I ask, Miss Harrison, did you receive anything from Jean? I know she was not able to be here. Any corrections or any suggestions?
I did not.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Michael,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Chris is an aye, and Jeff, you still there?
Where do you go?
All right, well, that's enough anyway, so we will move forward with that. Okay. Next, the treasurer's report. We are missing Jean this evening, so I will make a motion to approve the following warrants. 21T accounts payable in the amount of $18,909.92. 16S payroll in the amount of $8,253.93. And 17S payroll in the amount of $6,745.50, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Michael,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Jeff, and Chris is an aye. Next, we are going to move into a discussion with the current contract that we have with the Windham County Sheriff's Department. We are joined this evening by Sheriff Mark Anderson and Captain Paul Cimitero. Did I get that right? I asked you before and now I've already messed it up.
Perfectly.
Okay, good.
Mess it up.
So really, we haven't gone over this entire contract since we've made a few amendments to it, but really we haven't gone through this entire thing. I guess it was last signed July of 2019, and then there was an amendment made in June of 2020, and that would, where are we getting feedback from here? That would be when we come together to talk about the new hourly rates and all of that happy stuff. So there's been, over the last couple of years, there's been back and forth conversations between us. There's been complaints of speeding on some of the rural roads, which obviously we're always going to get that, but some concerns about the kind of lack of patrolling, those types of things. So I'm just curious if we can speak to that. When we look over everybody in their packet had a summary from January 1st until April 23rd. And I'm curious on here, if you could, Mark, when it says property check and directed patrol, could you tell me what those are, please?
Yeah, so I do apologize in advance. I haven't had the greatest of internet connection today. So if I start to lag out, I'll just drop the video. Directed patrols are generally patrols that are, it's basically a self-described name. They've been directed to occur. So each day we're at the school for pickup and drop off time. That was based off of conversations in the past with the select board, as well as with the school and with various concerned parents, that they just appreciate our presence there during that time, slowing cars down, greeting kids, generally proactive interaction with the students as they're coming into school. Property watches are a request from residents when they are going away for a period of time. That could be a day, it could be a weekend, it could be a month, but they're asking us to check on the property, make sure that it's secure, that there's nothing that's gone awry, that the building hasn't caught on fire, tree hasn't fallen through it, nobody's broken into it, things of that nature. So those are services that we normally provide to all residents or people who live in Vernon through the contract.
So do they get out and check around the building and everything?
Depending on what they want. We have had some people say, we just want you to drive by. We've had some people say, hey, rattle the locks. If you see anybody there, they shouldn't be there. And others will say, hey, half the family's going to be at the house over the summertime or the wintertime or whatever it may be. So it's really kind of determined by the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
So we asked, we did a traffic study with you guys. We also did one with Windham Regional, I think came down, all of which showed that there is speeding in the area. I'm curious how it is possible that for 4 months, there's 2 traffic stops. The first being the the 25th of February, and the second one being the 25th of March.
There was one moment. The short answer is I don't have that answer, but I'll see if I can come up with something quick.
So my concern is that we're oftentimes seeing the deputy in the exact same places at the same times every day. Those places being the church on 142, the highway garage, the town office, a residence on Scott Road, and most recently a residence on Depot Street. The deputy is there for a prolonged amount of time at each of those places, taking him away from what I would consider his duty that the town, the taxpayers are paying for. We have also seen the deputy out tag sailing on the town's dime. And these things are quite concerning when that's what we're seeing. And I'm curious, I know that when this has been brought up before, the explanation that was given was that's community policing. He can gather information by being in these places. And no offense to Mr. Walker, who's here, I don't think there's any more information that the deputy is going to gain by spending time at the highway garage that that relationship is established. So if he needs information from the highway guys or anybody at the town office, then I would suspect that relationship is good enough that he could stop in anytime and get that without hanging out for prolonged periods of time in those places. Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. So before I speak to that, actually, let me back up and discuss some of the stuff that's been going on in Vernon, because I disagree with your assessment that we're doing nothing on the town's time. Or that we're underserving the town. I've run this for the fiscal year, so July 1st, 2020 I ran it through April 30th. And in that time, we've responded to 376 calls for service. of which the most concerning calls for service for me right now include 13 thefts, 15 suspicious events, which I won't say that that's concerning, but something that we would want to look into. Several fraud/identity theft cases, and depending on what laws apply, could determine what comes up. So there are things that are going on. We're involved with a investigation, a federal investigation. So there's certainly things going on in town. What I'll note is, aside from the thefts, I'm going to flag that one for a moment. Aside from the thefts, we've received a report of 5 thefts. I'm sorry, excuse me, 5 different crimes over the period of the time. So we generally can use the report of crimes as a metric towards activity going on in town, because those are generally reported from an outside instance. There are times that we obviously observe crimes, but Vernon has historically been a town where you do identify what's going on based on people reporting it to you as a bedroom community. With regards to the thefts, I'll note that 7 of those have occurred in the last month. And as you may have noticed in the reformer yesterday, there's been an increase in thefts of catalytic converters. So with those, some of those are very new and recent investigations in which we are just beginning to coordinate with other agencies around the region and develop the information about who's involved, where they're taking the scrap metal. There is a process to identify scrap metal dealers in Vermont, but because of the nature of the tri-state location of us, we often see people go to New Hampshire and Massachusetts that have different rules and reporting requirements around scrap metal. So to return back to your question about why are traffic stops down, we also look at crash data to determine speed issues. In Vermont, and specifically in Windham County, speed accounts for roughly 1/3 of fatal motor vehicle crashes and motor vehicle crashes with injury. During the time that we've been covering Vernon this year, we had 2 motor vehicle crashes. One was a car versus a deer, and the second one was a result of a medical event. So actually the crashes are low or non-existent for speed-related issues. So while we will observe speeding, in fact, we discussed that when the town decided to scale back from what was then, I think, 20 hours of coverage per day. One of the things we did indicate was that we would see an increase in motor vehicle violations, and that's just due to a nature of loss of presence. People being aware of hours that we are or are not present, that is also going to influence it. And then finally, I don't know the state police's numbers, but I would use that as a comparative metric of what we're doing. So if the town's not aware of what the state police are doing in town, if there wants to be criticism of motor vehicle stops in town, outside of what general traffic safety work indicates, then I would use that as a metric. We are happy to conduct more enforcement and motor vehicle enforcement, but I'll also indicate that the crash data does not support that.
Okay, but the data that was gathered from your study as well as the Windham Regional does support that there's speeding in town. So I would like to just defend that. I didn't say that you guys were doing nothing on the town's dime. I'm saying that it's hard to fully do a job when we are getting complaints from residents that the cruiser is in the same spot at the same time on a day-to-day basis. So if we're receiving complaints about speeding in Silver Lane or on Pond Road or on Franklin Road or on Tyler Hill Road, it's virtually impossible for that deputy to be patrolling when he is sitting in the same locations day after day. And when he's not in his cruiser, he's out tag sailing, or he is out actually just visiting, then that's taking away from the duties that the taxpayers are paying him to be doing. Is that not a fair assessment?
So I guess I'm going to to respond to say we've only received 2 motor vehicle complaints in the last 8 months. I mean, from June, we've received 2. So for you to be telling me, I'm aware of the data that we collected with our radar cart, and to be told that you're receiving multiple reports, this is, aside from one complaint I heard about the deputy being at the highway garage, which I think was back in March of 20, but I could be wrong on that. I wasn't aware of any further issues with locations that he's sitting, nor am I aware of any specific instances other than what we've discussed in select board meetings. So to answer your question, I don't think it's fair because I'm just finding about it now.
So technically, I have heard what Chris has heard, and I have been remiss. I just have said, I'm sorry, but I said they should call you, and they should call you, right? If someone's complaining.
Generally, it's going to be the more responsive approach. If you call me and say, we're seeing speeding on Tyler Hill Road, we can respond to that. And to the question that you asked at the onset, what's a directed patrol? Those can be directed patrols. If we don't have any supporting information, let's just say we are told we think that there's a lot of speed on Tyler Hill Road for no reason whatsoever, those could be directed patrols. I'm going to guess in Vernon that they're primarily the school, but I don't know that for sure. I didn't run that number. But motor vehicle complaints being at 2, that's incredibly low, especially in comparison to communities around Windham County. We see a lot higher instance of report. And what we do ask is, again, contact our office, report it. People can do that anonymously if they're concerned about reporting it. And certainly if they don't feel comfortable contacting us, they can contact the select board, but we just ask that the select board then communicate it to us either directly or through the town administrator.
Okay. I did find it kind of strange that there's only one deputy that covers Vernon. Shouldn't others be used so that they know the town?
Generally, we try to focus the same personnel into the same towns because the relationships we find are more effective in dealing with community issues. We can certainly, and we have rotated people through for a variety of reasons, including personnel getting injured or training or different things like that. So there have been other personnel who do come to Vernon. In the 4-month period that you're looking at, I would not be surprised if it's the same deputy. In part, our training schedule has been incredibly limited simply because of the effect of COVID-19. We're just not allowed to send people to training. So we're accomplishing a lot of training online and in ways that do comply with the current orders.
Okay, thank you.
Could we talk about the use of the town hall building? Is the office that's downstairs? I understand that when you guys were here 20 plus hours a day, it certainly made sense for you to have access to that, to have a place for your deputy to go and do that. Is Vernon the only town that provides that service for you?
In terms of service, Vernon is the only town that has a space dedicated as much as the town of Vernon currently dedicates. Specifically, we have no workspaces that are separated. It's the only town I'm aware of that we actually have temporary evidence located in the facility itself. We do receive workspaces, and some of them, when I say they're separate, basically it's an area where we can access their computer network, phones. We have, I want to say, about half of our towns who provide that. Ultimately, the benefit to the town is that if we do need to perform research, computer work, developing affidavits or reports, rather than have the person drive to my office in Newfane, having a workspace somewhere that they can set up, it's more ergonomically effective than inside of a cruiser, then that keeps them in town more. So when we changed our contract from the 20 hours a week to 40, or I'm sorry, 20 hours a day to 40 hours a week, part of the negotiation was to remove the obligation of the location which you'll see reflected in our contract under, this would be the full contract from 2019, not the amendment. The one 20-020 dated June 18th, 2019. Section 5A. The town agrees in lieu of providing facilities, a deputy conducting necessary activities in accordance with this agreement may be performed at a facility designated by the office. So that's basically language that allows the town to say, hey, we're not responsible for this. It's not figured into the rate. It's not figured into anything, as opposed to a discussion that we had with the select board several years ago, where the board was requesting that we pay rent for the space that we were using. And we said, okay, but we're just going to essentially levy that cost back onto the town. So it's kind of a wash. That's why the language remained back when we were there for 20 hours a week. It's ultimately a benefit to the town for the deputy there. When we went to 40 hours, we just didn't have the same compelling need for a completely dedicated space. Now, if you were to say it's not cost effective for the town, I'd say that's not an issue. Just understand, I have to have them do their paperwork somewhere. So for Vernon, that might be we have an arrangement in Brattleboro. It might be we have an arrangement in Newfane. I just can't dictate that from minute to minute because of COVID, because of a variety of agreements that we do enter into.
Any other questions from the board?
We don't have 60 days because we haven't had town meeting yet. So if you read the contract, if we wanted to change it, or we had to do it 60 days prior to the end of the agreement, but we can't do that because of when town meeting is due to COVID. Are you going to hold us to that?
Totally. No, I'm kidding. No, I fully understand. Part of the reason why we kept our rates level funded this year was because of COVID. We knew everybody is going to be dealing with it. So that's been language that's been in this contract since the beginning of this contract. Basically, what it was designed to do is when we would call a town, not to say that this necessarily occurred, but our attorney advised to be wise. If we were to call a town and never got a call back, well, it just means that the relationship continues until we can deal with it. With COVID, I'm more than happy to be flexible with the town because we ask for the same level of flexibility, and we just think that's good towards a business relationship.
Thank you.
So there's been talk about that space that you guys occupy at the town office becoming the new EOC somewhere. I'll say the near future, but I don't know how near that is, but certainly in the coming years. So what would we need to do, because you guys are taking up a large part there with the evidence and all of that space. So we do still have Chief Emery here. I'm just curious what that space is going to look like moving forward.
So I certainly happy. If you want to have the discussion tonight, we can certainly do that. We've talked with Chief Emery in the past about what the infrastructure there is and what needs that they would have were the EOC to integrate in there. That's not a new conversation on either the near side or the far side. I'm not sure if that will make sense for anybody who's not familiar with the layout of the facility, but we can be fully removed from there, and that could be solely the EOC. We could share the space. We would just need, if we are to have it as a dedicated space for law enforcement, we would need to have control. That's coming down to what's known as the siege of security policy, which is dictated by the FBI. So it's not something that we write. It's nationally required for access to to criminal justice information. So that's why we ask for just sole domain over that space. Without sole domain over the space, then we just know that we have to remove everything coming with it, which simply is just a technical requirement that we're obligated to do. The years ago, we had more equipment in the facility. That's all been removed. It was removed in light of the 2019 contract. So really, this is an easy conversation. And if the board has the desire either to reduce the footprint or ask us to completely leave the facility, that's fine. I just say if we're asked to completely leave, I'll be needing either different space in the town that we may use, or understanding from the board that we're just going to have to leave town to be able to accomplish paperwork. It'll just mean less visibility to the people in the town. Otherwise, if you are suggesting we reduce the space, then I think it would just be charging the EMD and the town administrator, either Dave or Wendy or their successors, should there ever be one, to have the discussion with us and we work around it.
Makes sense.
So if I can jump in here, Mr. Chairman, we have had the conversation not only with the sheriff, but with also the deputy here. The area, because it has multiple entrances, allows itself to be changed relatively easily. We haven't got down to any true tactic decisions on what would be the best and where it would go, but there's a ton of options to allow that them to continue on, or I think that would be your discussion, but for on the EMD side or the emergency management side,
Jason, John, Davis.
as the sheriff mentioned, there's two ends to that building, and that could probably work pretty well. However, that stuff is probably, discussions that you all need to do, but the physical building does have the ability to do both, if so be it.
Okay.
Right.
And Sheriff, if in speaking with directed patrols, we are looking at summertime coming, pool opening. How do we go about asking for directed patrols that would include that rec area of Pond Road, and maybe some focus on the outer lying parts of town that are seeing less of a presence, being Franklin Road, Tyler Hill, maybe even, and I know that there has been people that say that they see them up on Basin Road, so that's wonderful, but we also know that there is a considerable amount of people that, and there's a huge hill there. So, obviously speed is picked up coming down there, but there is still a speed limit. And I think that we need to ask that deputy to be directed and more focused on some of those areas.
Yeah, so I've already made a note here to include some of the outlying roads. The rec is a pretty standard one for us each summer. That's just a common pivot point. And we do intend to be getting our radar cards back out, and the rec is actually one of the pre-identified locations for that. So that will be coming, and I will ask, I'll make a note to ask that we have the data logging cart be put there, because I believe that was one location requested by the town last year before we pulled the carts, and it just didn't make it there on the rotation.
Yep. So
we will get the data logged for that. Give me one moment. Made a note for the directed patrols on the outlying roads, and going forward, an email is fine. If the town administrator wants to reach out, I know that the board meets twice a week. Sometimes that's not quick enough. So an email from a member of the board, a forward of an email from a concerned citizen, or the town administrator can certainly be that conduit as well. Am I
Anything
still
else?
with you?
Yes. Are you going
I
to
see
be at
movement.
town meeting? Will you be at town meeting?
It is on my calendar. I don't remember who else is also meeting on the same day, but as long as you're the only one, then yes. And if you are not the only one, then I have to make sure I didn't commit elsewhere, and then it will just be a decision. Do you expect any significant changes, just given that we are running out of time before the contract expires? Are we looking at any significant changes that you can anticipate beyond the throes of town meeting?
Just town meeting.
Yep, I don't think there's much else there. I think a lot of this was just, we wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. There has been questions about what the process would be should people wanted to want a different deputy in town. Is that something that goes through you, or how does that come to be?
I think we should have a discussion. I would request that we do it in an executive session if that were a decision to be made. There's part contractual issues as well as personnel issues for me. If there is to be a discussion specific to that. Outside of those, it's not an issue of secrecy for me. It's just making sure that we comply with federal and local law. But outside of those, if there's concerns that it's simply misunderstanding, it's communication, they're not necessarily personnel issues, I'd be certainly happy to discuss that with affected parties and the board.
Do you want to do that tonight, Chris?
I don't think so. We didn't warn it for such, and that may be a conversation that the select board needs to have a follow-up with. I mean, that wouldn't go against this contract being renewed anyway. That would be something different, wouldn't it, Mark? I mean, there's nothing written in this contract that says specifically that we are locked into a deputy. Is that?
Yeah, so generally, and I'm looking through just to verify, we try to keep our contracts pretty much the same, but there are minor deviations from time to time. Generally, our contracts do say something to the effect that the sheriff is in control of the employees. So if you say, I'm upset because I'm just making stuff up right now, this is hypothetical, you're upset because the deputy arrested somebody for a crime. We will say we don't care. If you tell me that the deputy is selling canoes down by the river, is it a violation of my contract? No. Do I have a serious issue with what my deputy's doing on the town's time? Yes, because that affects the relationship that my department has with the town. So for me, we look to retain the domain over our employees. However, we also want to maintain the relationship with the town. And so if it's not a right fit, certainly we're open to discussion. Now, what I don't know is if you're able to enter into executive session for my personnel issue. So you might not be able to do that. Maybe that's a discussion with town legal counsel. I think it would classify under a contracting issue, but that's certainly, again, something for the town legal counsel. If you find you cannot enter into executive session, it might be a discussion that you pass along either to a liaison select board member or to the town administrator, and then we can have that discussion in a confidential setting that allows me to ensure I follow our obligations under state and federal law.
Okay. So without having to get into an executive session or going through all of that, I think that we've raised concerns that have been brought forth, and the hope being that we can direct some different patrols, that we can see the deputy maybe not sitting in the same location at the same time over and over, and see where that goes. Other than that, I don't see really any other changes unless the board sees any within the contract. It was level funded this year, so that should be no issues. Anything else from the select board or the public?
We do appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Stay safe. You as
Thank
well,
you.
Captain.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff. You're back.
All right, I need to find my agenda here. Next, we need to do the town meeting preparation, including the town clerk update. And then after that, we will assign articles to select board members. And my vote is that since Jean is not here, she just gets them all.
I
We'll get to that in a
second
minute. So Tim, I'm going to turn this over to you, sir. Cannot hear you, sir. You're muted.
We'll do that. How's that?
All right.
That's good.
All right. We are making progress. We've reconfirmed the 10 bid with Rediker of the Rediker Company in Berniston. We are making arrangements for a sign language interpreter for the meeting. We are looking at a porta-john just to continue our current policy of the public not being allowed into the town hall. And in addition, BCTV had a question for you all. As part of your contract, they would provide coverage of town meeting, and they can do it either by recording it or playback or doing it live, since there's nothing else going on that day for them. What would be your pleasure? By the way, no extra cost.
Why wouldn't we do it live then?
Live is always fun.
Yes, it is. I've been there, done that. I will pass that on to BCTV. It just requires a different crew than if they were just doing something that would be recorded for a playback at a later time. But they're fine with either at the same cost included in our contract.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? So Tim, that means it will not be recorded if it's live?
It would still be recorded, but it would
Okay.
also be live.
Good. And just so everybody knows, you won't be able to call in or join from a remote location.
That's correct.
It's only viewing from remote locations.
Correct. Now, the enabling legislation that allowed us to push back town meeting said this would be a in-person event. The only community allowed to have a Zoom town meeting is Brattleboro, because they have a set number of meeting representatives. We would not be able to physically or logistically handle 1,000 residents trying to Zoom into a town meeting.
Boy, that sure would be a fun town meeting, though.
Define fun.
I'm not the moderator, so it would be fun for me.
We would enjoy it, Tim.
Well, you would probably see my head spinning around in 360-degree circles and spitting green slime. But no, there's a reason we wanted to do an in-person meeting, and we are very happy to do that as long as we follow all of the COVID regulations, which again are the social distancing and wearing masks as long as you are less than 6 feet away from somebody. The regulation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Emery, is that the outside regs allow up to 300 socially distanced unvaccinated people at a gathering such as ours, and an unlimited number of totally vaccinated people to attend.
That's absolutely correct, and those are today's numbers. So by the 19 days from now, it could change, but yes.
So we are doing everything we can to make sure we can do the town's business within the COVID regulations and keep everybody safe.
Great. Perfect.
So with what the governor said today, and without getting into an argument of who's vaccinated and who isn't, how do we handle the mask issue that day?
My take on it is that we say you need masks, but if somebody shows up and absolutely refuses to wear a mask, I'm not going to turn them away from the meeting, neither as clerk or as town moderator. I'm just going to say, okay, can you sit over there just a little bit? Because
What if they don't?
I am concerned that if we turn an unmasked person away from a town meeting, we're violating their right to be a participant in democracy.
And our hope was that we would be able to have an area cordoned off for unmasked people. However, there's no way under that tent we can get people to be everybody 6 feet apart and do that. A lot of it's going to depend on the numbers that show up. But our original plan was to have an area cordoned off for unmasked people to do that. And I think at this stage, we're wise just to stick with the masks and run it that way.
So
Correct.
as the town, are we able, if you are under the tent, you must be masked? Is that acceptable, or are we not able to say that?
I would be curious what the enforcement of the state allows us to do, and that would be a better question for our town attorney.
However, the towns can decide on themselves if they want to be a little more stricter than what the state guidelines are. So the town has that. The real key is the question you asked is, how do you enforce it? If somebody insists that they don't need a mask because the governor and everything says that they don't need a mask and they can stay 6 feet away, how much of the argument do you want to get into? So the real thing that I'm hearing out there from people is those that want to wear the masks are. I think the town is absolutely correct in saying that they want and encourage and push people into the masks that are going to be in that close proximity.
And by the way, we will have a supply of masks in case someone conveniently forgot theirs on the way to a town meeting.
And then we also talked about having like circles on the ground and on the grass that would be for families. So people would put their chairs in the circles and be separated that way.
That's correct.
And that would be showing the 6 foot.
Right. And it would also just be a non-confrontational way to organize folks.
Any further questions for Tim or David while he is still here?
Just a reminder, Mr. Chairman, that again, we will pass out voter cards and perhaps make a stack of things that the town wants to hand out when people show up at the meeting, but tabling and food sales will not be allowed under the COVID regulations.
And how are you prepared to handle any floor votes that are called that would require a ballot?
We will get volunteers from the members of our BCA who will no doubt all be masked, and they'll do the counting if people wish to come up and drop the any paper ballots into a ballot box. That's fine, or we'll do division of the House the same way we would at any other town meeting.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? In 19 days, things will be totally different. Of course. Of course.
Always.
Does that mean you're going to grow hair?
If he wants to, he can.
That's right.
All right. Tim, thank you for joining us, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, next we need to go over the articles that are here and decide who wants to read which articles. Without Jean here, we do have the first, what is that? Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll include the library so we can just take Gene right out of the running on those ones.
The library usually does that themselves anyway, the trustees.
Okay, all right. I always forget about that. So,
I want to volunteer. I usually do the ones in the middle. So I'd like to volunteer for Article 18 through Article 22. There's 5 of them.
any other volunteers?
I'm the newest. I'll take what's left.
You're cool.
Oh, that's Article 12 through 17, Article 23 through 30.
Fairly,
Perfect.
very fairly.
I'll do 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27.
Okay. Michael, 28, 29, 30.
Perfect.
That is
Probably not 30 though. It has to do with mailing.
Oh, okay,
okay. I'll take that.
okay.
And then Article 11 is done by the committee,
Select board.
correct? No, that is the,
That's us.
okay.
We
So
do
10 and
10.
11 is us.
Mm-hmm.
So Jean is 10 and 11. Am I missing something? Mine starts at Article 4.
Yeah, that's because the first three were on the warning for the election, because the warning for the election was technically part one of town meeting.
Okay. Great. So, I will take Article 4. Jean has 10 and 11, 12 and 13. And I will take 14, 15, 16, and 17. Does that cover everything?
Covers everything. That was
So
really
one more time, Wendy, Article 4 is me, Article 10 and 11 is Jean, Article 12, 13 is Jean, Article 14, 15, 16, 17 is Chris. Jeff is Article 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Sandy is Article 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Michael is 28, Michael is 29, and I am Article 30.
Yep, got it.
How did Michael, he only got 2? Man.
He's a new guy.
He's the newest kid, but he's the smartest one.
Wow, Sandy.
Well, the rest of us ended up with more.
All right. So you got all of that, Wendy?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect.
And I just wanted to bring to your attention the budget comparison that I did. And then I'll hand out that at town meeting that was provided in your packet. And I'll make an additional presentation that gives more detail on the department budgets. And I can have that for you at the next meeting, at the meeting on the 18th, so that you can see it. We won't be able to do a PowerPoint with a screen, so we'll have to hand out everything in advance. We'll probably put it on the website too in advance, and actually ask people to send questions in advance too,
That would be good.
just to speed things along.
Before you pass this out, can you correct the spelling of differs?
Of what? I'm sorry?
Spelling of differs, raised by taxes differs. There's, it's differs is spelled wrong.
Oh, it has an extra E.
Yeah.
Yep, too bad. This already did
So
get sent out, but thank you.
It must be the Canadian spelling, right?
that's right. Right. Our neighbors.
All right. Any further discussion on articles? Seeing none. Under new business, there's been some concerns brought forward about the Lily Pond. The concerned party is not joining us this evening. They were reached out to. I'm not really sure. We've visited the Lily Pond multiple times, and realistically, the town has no say over it. The state doesn't have any say, nor do they want any say over it. And we control the entrance to the Lily Pond, and that is really where our authority stops. So some of the concerns are just the same stuff. The people down there with vehicles, with ATVs, somebody out there with the trolling motor on a flat bottom boat. I mean,
So
again,
the person that's concerned, is it the property owner?
no, sir.
Then, okay.
So I 100% agree. The only thing that I would say here is that previously the concerned party has come forward, and when we did have a full-time town administrator, there was talk about potentially starting a committee that would be some type of a conservation committee, and asking her if she wanted to kind of take lead on that and organize that, see if there was any other volunteers in town that wanted to go forward with that. I'm curious the board's wishes or thoughts on allowing her or giving her the option to organize such a committee, seek volunteers, and present that back to the select board for approval.
We have a conservation committee, don't we?
We have
We
a
always did.
river representative.
I can't find my town report. Where is it? Just add her to the committee.
I did not see one, Sandy. I'm looking right now.
We used to have one, so it's reactivated if we don't have it now.
So if you had one, there would be a description of the committee somewhere with a mission and purpose, right?
One
Well,
would think, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that, Wendy.
if you don't find one, don't go crazy, because the old timers are on it.
Yeah, I do not see that listed here anywhere.
Oh,
And I don't see anything that I could even possibly think would be that. So I guess the question would be, is there anybody on the board that objects to at least offering something along those lines to her, and asking her if that's something that she would like to present back to us, do some research and explain to us why that would be a necessary thing, and to seek volunteers for that. I'm certain that between Wendy and Martin, it would not be terribly hard to get something out to the town, seeking volunteers to get on to something like that once there was an actual kind of mission statement and what that committee would be for.
it'd be a good idea.
Any objection?
No, as long as, like you said, there's a mission statement and a reason for being, for adding one more committee.
Now
Yeah.
it was, I'm sorry, Jeff, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Because you had mentioned the property owners, and Lily Pond is owned by the property owners, I think, and Wendy had made mention of this previously in a conversation, that the property owners need to be consulted about this as well. And given the opportunity to, one, sit on that committee, but certainly be able to voice any concerns that they may have about that.
And if
So, I
they
mean,
put the town
the
involved,
intent of this forming a new committee. I'm assuming it's not going to be an ad hoc committee, that it would be a permanent fixture. And I'm just a little, I'm not saying no, I'm just a little leery about forming a committee to deal with one specific issue.
Especially if the property owner doesn't want them on their property.
Correct.
Got a point, Jeff.
I'll go either way on this. I mean, that, you know, the Lily Pond is a place that I grew up. We camped on that island. That was always something that we did. And it was a great place to have, sure, there was things in there. And sure, as kids, we did stupid things that we probably shouldn't have over there. But it was a part of this town. Not me, Sandy. It was Michael.
Michael.
It was a part of this town. We grew up here, and that was always such a big thing, that it was the first place that you could go when your parents kind of knew where you were and they weren't worried about you.
Yeah.
So I think that all of these concerns are coming from the right place. I just think that we do need to be cautious, because that is essentially a privately owned pond. And the landowners have continued to allow people to use that. And Marjorie was nice enough to allow the town to keep access to that pond so that it could be used for such things as what it is being used for, fishing and kayaking and those types of things. And anybody that wants to drop a trolling motor in there and the 18 inches of water that's there, they're only damaging their own equipment.
Wow. It's not low now, huh?
It has really gotten very shallow in there. I kayaked it last year, and there was places where you just bottomed out a lot, but.
Wow.
So I guess my suggestion would be that we hold off on the language of a committee and perhaps reach back out to this concerned party and ask if they could give us reasons why we should entertain a committee. And that there would have to be some conversation with the property owners before the select board would be willing to authorize that. Is that fair?
I think that's fair.
Yeah, definitely.
Agreed.
Perfect. Next, we have some appointments. We received a letter from Tom Garino asking to be appointed to the Tax Stabilization Committee. And we also had some interest from Megan Lyon, who has been recommended from Mary Lynn, who's joining us this evening, to join the Cemetery Committee. And Jane Smith, also recommended by Mary Lynn, to join the Elderly Assistance Board.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Root. I heard him first. All those in favor, please say aye. Michael,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
and Chris is an aye. I would say that the Tax Stabilization Committee, I don't know how frequently they meet. I did receive an email from somebody else in town listing the reasons why that committee really should get back to some meetings and some things that should be looked at. I will forward that to the board after we close this meeting here. Wendy, were you on that email?
Yes, I was. And actually, I was just going to add what the person was talking about was long-term financial planning, which is something I'd like to at least start while I'm here. And so I thought I could start it with that committee, actually.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Any further discussion? If not, I would look for a town admin report.
Okay, I'll look for it too. No. Not just a few things. Just the website is still progressing. We're adding the payment process. Hopefully we'll be able to have that by town meeting. We have the basic level of software set up, but now we need to make the actual forms that the town will use to define the payment. So that requires some work by the individual departments. And so we're starting on that. Hopefully we will be able to roll it out by town meeting. We should be able to. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with different domain names. The .gov domain name has had a cost in the past. It's cost $400 a year to have that domain name. The federal government just last week decided to not have any cost. So now it's free for municipalities, and it's a much safer domain name, and it's recommended by the Secretary of State of Vermont. And so I'm working on getting us that domain name. We'll still keep the .org so that we can forward emails, but the .gov is much better. It helps. It does prevent someone else from taking the Vernon site and pretending to be that site, because you have to prove that you are who you say you are to get the .gov. So it protects us and also protects residents. You know, they'll know that they're dealing with the proper site, and there is more security with regard to election information also, to the extent that that happens on the website. So that's I think a really good thing. Just a couple updates on the town administrator search. The ad was posted on the VLCT website and on Indeed. There is a cost to post it on the New Hampshire and the Massachusetts sites. It's $150 for each site. We do have $6,500 in recruitment. I don't know that I guess you could take make a motion to authorize me to spend those funds, and then we could confirm it at the next meeting as part of the minutes. But I do need approval. I don't have authorization to spend basically anything, is my understanding. So I would need the board to approve if you do want to advertise on those sites. Those are the sites for municipal managers in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And I do think it would be good, especially the New Hampshire one. I think would be valuable.
Well, then I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to authorize our interim town administrator to be authorized to pay for the ads.
Thank you.
Second.
You.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Root. Wendy, could I ask, do you foresee any future costs that you may need authorization for these advertisings so that we could keep this ball rolling?
If we wanted to extend them past 30 days, right now we're just advertising for 30 days. We may want to extend that. That would be the only reason I would think to increase. Or if you wanted to put it in the newspaper, we could probably just do a press release and get it in the newspaper. I wasn't going to publish it in a paper because just a lot of people don't get their information that way.
So there's $6,500. Was that a part of the 36,000 that we have asked to roll over?
No, it was not.
No.
No. I wouldn't be suggesting that we use it.
Okay.
No,
So, and you don't see any benefit to advertising in a paper, and I don't think last time we did this, I don't think we got anything from the papers that we ran in the Greenfield, Springfield area. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we didn't. We got someone from Maine, I think. That could have been VLCT.
Did we reach out to the BDCC?
I just talked to someone about that today. I will reach out to them and send it to them.
So Sandy, would you be okay with the friendly amendment to that to go up to $600, which would get us until July, which would end out this fiscal year, should we need to run it for an additional month?
Sure, definitely.
Michael, would you still second that?
Yes.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Root. All those in favor to authorize Wendy to spend up to $600 for the advertisement of the Vernon Town Administrator position. All those in favor, please say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Sandy,
Aye.
Chris is an aye. And anything else, Wendy?
No, just real quickly, the May 18th meeting, the two things we have now are more town meeting prep and the pay-as-you-throw report that you received from Bob Spencer. So right now, those are the things that I have for the agenda.
Okay. And I believe we should see the fire department that day as well. Is that correct?
It probably is because I haven't looked at that schedule recently,
Okay.
but there is
Alright.
a schedule. So yes.
Okay. And then I don't know if he needs it or not, but if you could possibly reach out to Alex and just make sure that this will be his first town meeting. And I'm certain there will be some questions coming his way. Just make sure that he's prepared for that.
Sure, of course.
Great.
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
we can even prepare a presentation. He should have a handout, I would think.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
just
Thank
whatever could put him at a little bit of ease. I know that politics was not what he was getting into this for, so. All right. Upcoming meeting schedule, the Planning Commission has a regular meeting on Wednesday, May 12th. That's 6:60. I'm gonna assume that means 6:30. And then the next regular select board meeting is Tuesday, May 18th,
Oh, yes.
followed by town meeting Sunday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. Without any further discussion, I would take a motion to adjourn. Nope, I see Mary Lynn. Always got to be somebody.
You didn't have non-agenda agenda comments.
Because we didn't want to hear from you.
The beginning.
Now my feelings are hurt.
Which one?
Yeah, you had that at the beginning.
That was non-agenda. This was agenda.
That's on the.
So just quick, because it's recorded. I was going to send you an email, but then I changed my mind.
Thank you.
So on the sheriff's department, not necessarily the sheriff's department, I just want to know, over the years, I have spoken probably to every law enforcement entity that we have had in this town about the speed on Huckle Hill, that I've quit. You know, at one point, I even sat out in my yard with a radar gun and just checked various cars coming down the hill. And somebody wondered where I got it from, but I have a lot of law enforcement friends all over, military and civilian. So, and it just, you know, I'm not trying to bash the deputy. If they're seeing him up in the basin, it's not any good to drive up the road and then drive back down. They're coming down the hill at speeds of 60 or plus on a 35-mile-an-hour road, you know, and at some point, somebody is going to really have a serious accident. The data may not show it, not trying to dispute that, but at some point it's going to happen. There's a lot of driveways that come out and you come down the hill and you cannot see them. And the only thing that's changed over the years is people that have moved in and out of different houses. And that really is not okay. I don't even want to walk on my road anymore. There's cars in the morning. There's a lady from the housing, senior housing, that walks in the morning. They don't even move over. They just stay in their lane and go. And I can envision her being hit someday. So, you know.
I agree with you, Mary Lynn. I truly wish that there was more that we could do about it. You know, we could certainly, Wendy, maybe we could ask Mark to make sure that radar cart does get on there. And I would prefer the one that does record the data so that we could see what's going on. I mean, we had the Windham Regional, theirs showed that there is speeding throughout town. And then the sheriff's department, when they put theirs out, they didn't have it programmed right. So it showed inaccurate data. And I believe they put it out again and it did show that there's speed. And The average speed may not be high, but there is still those speeders that are exceptionally high. So it only takes one of them. And I agree that the data showing that the crash data, that doesn't really matter to me. If we have a radar car in town that's showing that people are speeding, then people are speeding. Just because they're not crashing, we have fairly straight roads. So
Yeah. And it matters where you put that cart too. They had one time when it was on Huckle Hill, it was down on the corner on Barbara Mosley's yard when you're coming up the hill around a corner.
Right.
That's not a very accurate place, I don't think, to be testing it.
So we're going to put it right at the end of your driveway this year.
You can put it at the garage right next door to me, at my property next door to my house. There's a really nice flat spot right there. And you can't see it coming down the hill.
What is the number? Would you like us to ask for it to be put there?
Sure, 371.
All right.
And go right there.
So we'll make sure that Mark is that request is sent, please, Wendy.
Yep, no problem.
Okay,
Will
great.
do.
All right, and then we'll see. We'll continue to have this fight, I'm sure. But
Oh yeah, always.
it'll be what it is. So all we
Always.
can do is keep bringing it to their attention and keep being told the same thing repeatedly. So,
Yeah.
but all right, I would take a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Dunkley. All those in favor to get out of here, please say aye. Michael,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Sandy.
Aye.
Michael sounded awfully excited about that.
Yeah.
Chris is an aye. Everybody have a good night.
Bedtime.
Right.